Been cautiously trying to approach the topic of what's going on in Canada at the moment, and yeah, every once in a while I'll just dive back in, see if there's anything to talk about, and really the inaction of the federal government, the provincial government, they've just been saying things, they haven't really been doing anything, so there hasn't been much to really talk about. But today there's enough of stories that have come out in the recent days that warrant checking in on the Great White North. Canada's healthcare system ranked second last among high-income countries. Yep. Somebody who has had to deal with the healthcare system in the not-too-distant past. Yeah, it's pretty shit. Not overburdened, okay? And there's one hospital in Grand Prairie that services, like 100,000 people. There is one out there in Beaver Lodge, but you know what? Hey, outside of that, two hospitals. One that most people don't even know about, that mostly just treats farm injuries and hoof rot. I can tell you a first-hand account. Nothing's really changed over the past 10 years. It's still garbage. It's still long waits. Sure, it was nice for the tools that were required at the time, but outside of that, not great. And it just looks like my anecdotal evidence is kind of backed up. Unfortunately backed up, because I would like to be wrong on this topic. I would like for Canada's healthcare system to be working perfectly, but then again, it's also run by the government, and when was the last time they did anything correctly? Canada's healthcare system was ranked 10th out of 11th, just like Gwen Berry, the hammer thrower who turned their back on their country. Kind of like the healthcare system. Out of 11 high-income nations, in a new report by the Commonwealth Fund released on Wednesday, the Commonwealth Fund ranked countries based on equity, access to care, affordability, healthcare outcomes, and administrative efficiency. The only other high-income country ranked lower than Canada on the list was the United States. Yeah. Okay. So it's like, according to this study, the people who are complaining in the United States that, oh, you need a socialized medicine, you need to just start transitioning to the great and powerful Canadian healthcare system. It looks like they have a point, but I wouldn't necessarily hang my hat on that either. Top performing high-income countries in the report include Norway, the Netherlands, and Australia. Really, really not fair comparisons when you take a look at the United States based on population density and just the sheer numbers. You take a look at Norway, a little bit different. Australia, same things, and I'm sure that this study also accounted for all that stuff. But at the end of the day, 10th out of 11th, Canada, that's good enough for you, I suppose. Staying on the subject of healthcare, more Canadians still think the worst of COVID is behind them. Behind them, okay? Even though the media and all the different reports and all the government officials still want you to be so goddamn fearful of the new Delta virus. And once that subsides and then a new variant comes along, they want you to be afraid of that. But most people think that, yeah, all the lockdowns, they were really bad. Okay, all of the mandates, that was really bad, but that's in the past. Let's continue to move forward. A new poll has found that the majority of Canadians still think the worst of the COVID pandemic is behind them. Yeah, it was supposed to be over. I think the 15 days is up. I'm just checking. As fears of the Delta variant-driven fourth wave grow, the new poll by Leger, it's Canadian, who gives a shit, shows that 54% of Canadians believe that the worst of the COVID-19 pandemic is behind them. However, that is a 9% drop from last month when 63% of Canadians believed that. Oh my god. Who is stupid enough to fucking believe that? The people who are probably still being forced to stay at home. People who are, I wouldn't even say forced, especially in some parts of Ontario and some of the larger cities that are around the country. They're probably just loving the idea that they can sit at home and just collect free money. Yeah, that's just not how the world works. That's just not how we move forward as society. The government is not just going to drag you kicking and screaming. And if they do come to get you and drag you kicking and screaming, the end result is never very good. CP24 spoke with Leger's Executive Vice President Christian Bork about the drop in optimism, to which he said, "We are seeing an impact of all the talk around the Delta variant. It is scaring some Canadians." According to the poll, 73% of Canadians do not want to see all COVID-19 restrictions lifted at this time. That figure is up 3 points from last month. I hate my country. Let's continue to move on. Mandatory vaccines would equal loss of fundamental rights. I hope somebody cites this in the future. It's a parliamentary report. It totally makes sense. I'm completely on board. I just see this getting thrown to the side like criticism for Bill C-10. Mandatory vaccines would equate to a loss of fundamental rights, the Library of Parliament wrote in a report released on Tuesday. According to Vaccination Certificates and Fundamental Rights Report, researchers say that those who are unable to be vaccinated are amongst those in the country who need their rights protected the most. People who cannot be vaccinated or live with a disease or disability are among those who need the most fundamental rights protections to ensure that they are treated equally, researchers wrote. Creating categories of people based on their decisions to be vaccinated or not could lead to different levels of freedom, which could add to other systemic inequities and affect some other groups more than others. The report continues. Requiring vaccination is a precondition to full participation in public life, runs the risk of rendering the voluntary vaccination regime de facto mandatory. Subjecting the ability to participate in public life to some form of government surveillance diminishes the level of freedom one expects in the democracy. A digital certificate also poses technical challenges related to privacy, security, and access. Yesterday, Health Ministry Patty Hajdu said the millions of Canadians who have thus far refused the vaccine should get information. Whatever. We do still have folks that are unvaccinated. Hi, Hajdu said. It is very important for people to understand, even though we see cases rise around North America and the United States, not this country, that in fact people who have been vaccinated are very protected from COVID-19. Just don't look at any of the additional numbers out there. And if people who are vaccinated are very secure from this virus, according to Patty Hajdu, the health minister, why do we need some more restrictions? Why do we do that? Why are we one of the most locked down countries in the developed world? Okay, can't speak for third world countries because it's not a fair comparison whatsoever. Why are there vaccinated and unvaccinated lines at airports? Why are there mask mandates? Why are all of these things happening? And why are people just tacitly supporting this? Because all this shit comes from the top. Trudeau Liberals maintain lead as election season looms. We don't know for sure if there's going to be an election. They've already tried to fortify it, and I'm pretty sure the bill's already passed. So Bill C-19 is going to be law, and we're just going to have all the fun and hijinks that a pandemic-era election has as well. And the people that were polled still believe that Justin Trudeau is doing a great job in the face of all the ethics violations and the fact that he initially bottled the vaccination rollout. You look at his past and you look at his present, there is a very little differentiation when it comes to speed bumps in the middle of the road. This guy is a walking landmine, and people just want to double down on him. Apparently, 27% of respondents said they would vote Liberal if an election were to be held tomorrow. Why do you think this keeps getting kicked down the road? Because he doesn't have a majority. Far from it. Far from it. Because he could wait until 2023 or any time between now and then, depending on what the Conservative government does. They should be absolutely beating the brakes off of Trudeau right now. But they aren't, because the Conservative Party of Canada sucks an equal amount of dick. Federal Liberals lead the way in new polling that ranks voter support in Canadian politics. In the survey by Leger and the Association for Canadian Studies, 27% of respondents said they would vote Liberal if an election were to be held tomorrow. Many anticipate Trudeau to kick off an election this month. It is something Leger's Executive Vice President Christian Bourque claims will be an issue for other political parties who hope to gain vote momentum. And then they lay this out perfectly. If you're the Conservatives, the concern would be that if the writ really is dropped by mid-August, you're coming into it without any momentum. Exactly. People who know about Aaron O'Toole don't like Aaron O'Toole. It's the exact same situation that Andrew Scheer had, and there's just nobody else who's waiting in the wings. It's like people are still holding out hope that maybe Stephen Harper makes a return. That's why he's appearing in a lot of messaging right now, because right now when it comes to prominent Conservatives in the Canadian movement, he's about the highest profile that's out there. He's about the only guy who can immediately move in and make a difference for the Conservative Party. There is no Trump that they could pull off the sidelines. There is no firebrand, liberty-minded, right-leaning individual no superstar in Canada who is willing to enter that arena. Usually parties like to come into an election campaign with a little bit of wind at their back, but that's not happening right now for the Conservatives nor for the NDP. That's exactly what happens. I've laid out my concerns with the Conservative Party, and then you have the NDP, who is just spiraling into leftism, and where their support goes, I don't know. Are they peeling off any moderates that still might be holding out hope that the return of Jack Layton is just right on the horizon? I don't know. I don't think that they have any moderates at this point. They would have transitioned over to the Liberal government, maybe under Paul Martin, maybe under their reshuffle there, but Trudeau is just casting them off, and there's so many people that are, well, for lack of a better term, politically homeless right now because the Conservative Party does nothing for them. They aren't nearly right enough. They aren't nearly liberty-minded enough for what I would like. Can't in any good conscience support them. Okay, I've been getting flyers for my MP right now, and I don't know anything that he's done. I've tried to research his background, and I'm not going to put him on blast right now. The only thing that I've heard about him is, yeah, he's a nice guy, but that's what you say about fuck-ups. That's what you say about failures. It's like, yeah, he's a nice guy, but, and that's what we got up here. So if People's Party of Canada starts gaining momentum, that would, of course, be a great thing. But they're still so goddamn small. There's nothing to build on yet. They can start laying the foundation during this next potential election, because this is all speculation at this point. It was supposed to be happening in the spring. It was supposed to be happening over the summer. Now it's going to be happening over the fall. I'll believe it when I see it. And nobody's really gaining momentum. That's why I think that this is probably going to get pushed off maybe next year. I don't know. But unless the Liberals have some internal polling that I'm not aware of, that nobody's really aware of, I don't see anything on the immediate horizon other than more government control, because apparently that polls well. Ugh. With that said, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.